Imagine hearing footsteps on your porch and finding a realtor with buyers, measuring your living room, at your private cabin you never listed. My HOA did. They told the town my place was for sale and sent a tour without my consent. I felt violated, furious, and very, very done. So I snapped the lock on my gate and put up a sign of my own, one they weren't ready for. That should have ended it. Right? Instead, the HOA escalated in a way that still shocks me. Want to see how far they went, and how I turned the tables? Before all this, my life was the kind that breathes in quietly and exhales as slowly as the lake. I bought the cabin 7 years ago, a squat rectangle of weathered cedar tucked under old pines, with a tin roof that turned rain into applause. Mornings began the same way. Coffee from a chipped mug, bare feet on the cool porch boards, the dogs snoring under the swing while loons stitched their calls across the water. If I needed more heat, I fed the stove. If I needed fewer thoughts, I took the kayak out, the paddle whispering. My phone stayed face down. The world felt optional. Inside, every corner had my fingerprints, shelves I'd planned from a fallen maple, a stubborn window I finally coaxed level, a workbench that smelled like cedar shavings and lemon oil. I worked remote at a small desk, by the east window, where the first light braided through pine needles and laid itself across a rug my mother had woven. Even errands were simple. Mailbox at the bottom of the road, eggs from the neighbour with the red barn, a wave, a word. It wasn't fancy. It was mine, and it was enough. It was a Tuesday, I think. The rain had moved on, the roof quiet again, and I'd walked the dog down to the mailbox at the bottom of the road. The box wore its usual powder of dust and pollen. Inside was a single envelope thicker than bills, cream-coloured, with a logo I didn't recognise, pinecone and shield. Pine, Hollow Lake Community Association, neat as a brand on a calf. I opened it on the porch with my thumb. The letter smelled faintly like toner. It talked about stewardship and cohesion and said, starting next month, all exterior finishes must comply with the approved neutral palette. See attached swatches. Wood piles were to be screened from view. Docks over 12 feet required immediate permit applications. Mailboxes needed to be converted to the uniform roadside standard. There was a schedule of dues. A red line mentioned late fees. It cited a vote at the spring meeting. I tried to place the community in my head. The road is gravel owned by the county. My deed doesn't mention covenants. My dock is 10 feet 6, measured by my own tape last fall. I turned the page for a map. There wasn't one. Just a number to call and a deadline bolded in friendly font. By Friday, there was a new thing on the post. A laminated placard, fluorescent like a hunting vest, zip-tied right under the tin flag. Notice of non-compliance in a heavy, cheerful sans serif. Below that, Item 1, mailbox not uniform, roadside standard. Item 2, dock exceeds permitted length. Item 3, firewood storage visible from roadway. A total due, $275, payable within 10 days to avoid escalation, with a QR code like a birthmark. Someone had taken pictures. I could smell the warm plastic of the laminate where the sun hit it. I called the number. A menu asked me to press 2 for compliance, 4 for dues. I pressed 2, then listened to a piano loop and a woman explaining stewardship. I left my name and parcel number and said my parcel didn't belong to them. I said my dock was 10-6. No one called back. On Monday, I drove into town with the dog in the truck and my deed in a manila folder. The association had an office wedged into the old bait shop beside the shuttered cafe. Inside was a roll-up banner with the pinecone and shield and a folding table with a bell. A man in a navy polo with the logo over his heart looked up from a laptop. His hair was cut neat around the ears. A name tag. Nate D. Board. I handed him my folder and said I wanted to resolve a mistake. He glanced at the first page and set it down like a placemat. Great. So, we did a compliance drive last week. All parcels within the Pine Hollow Community Benefit Area are under the neutral palette, he said. It's not an HOA. It's a community association. Different thing. My deed doesn't have covenants, I said. County road. My dock is under 12. We measured 14, he said, tapping his screen with a capped pen. Our surveyor. Bring your tape, I said, trying to smile. I'll show you. There's a process, he said, still smiling. You can appeal at the spring meeting, next April. Fines continue accruing until resolved. It's in the guidelines. He pushed the folder back with 2 fingers. The dog whined. I started to speak again, and he had already turned his head to the woman behind me saying, Hi there. How can we help you get into compliance today? By Wednesday, there was another lamination under the first same cheerful font, new language, escalation notice, stage 2. Amount due reprinted with a red slash through 275 and a new total, 825, plus administrative recovery. In the corner, a small cartoon pine cone wearing a smile. Someone had added a note in blue Sharpie, do not remove, official signage. At noon, a white Tahoe with Pine Hollow Community on the door eased into the gravel. The AC dripped a clear ellipse onto the dust. A woman got out in a quilted vest, hair in a hard shell of blonde, a clipboard under her arm. Her name tag said, Marla B., President. She used my name without asking it from me. We're doing a courtesy. Site visit, she said, tilting her head toward the dock like it was a misbehaving child. We like to keep these collaborative. She had a tape wheel and a younger man with a GoPro clipped to his chest. The dog barked until his throat got hoarse. Marla smiled at the dog like you do to a baby before taking away the rattle. Leash. Ordinance is part of the wildlife framework, she said, writing something. That's a county road, I said. You don't have jurisdiction. Right of way, she said brightly, tapping the gravel with her sneaker. Your visual impacts extend, and we've received multiple community concerns. She said community, the way people say family in sermons. They measured to the ladder, to the cleat, to where the moss darkened the posts. 14.2 at mean high water, the young man said, eyes on his little screen. That's not how anyone measures, I said. Marla wrote anyway. Refusal to engage in good faith, she said as she wrote, then took a picture of my mailbox. We can get you an approved unit. We'll add it to your account. I found my flag tin on the ground later, bent like a leaf. The placard had a fresh zip tie through the hole. That night, a drone hung out over the lake, a lit dot quivering, the dog losing his mind until 2. In the morning, there were door hangers on the neighbors' cabins, neighborhood alert, non-compliant parcel impact. Someone had posted a thread on the town Facebook page with a photo of my truck and my plates, and my name spelled right. A deputy came on Friday, hat in his hands. They called about harassment, he said, looking embarrassed. Just don't touch their signs. Behind him, Marla idled at the corner in the Tahoe, watching me like you watch a puzzle click wrong. When I pulled the plastic off the post and dropped it in the trash, she lifted her phone and filmed until I could see myself in the screen, my mouth opening and closing. Tampering with official signage, she said, not to me, but to the little red dot. Documented. It was not about docks or pallets. She wanted me to know she knew where to lean. The annual meeting notice went up on the kiosk Sunday. Same cheerful font, pinecone smiling like it knew a joke. I went. The lodge smelled like coffee and new varnish, folding chairs in rows, a vinyl banner that said, "We are Pine Hollow," swagged over a rack of raffle baskets. Birdseed, a spa gift card, a bundle of cedar mulch. Marla had a gavel like a toy hammer and a stack of agendas in a lucite stand. "Welcome, neighbours," she said into the mic, voice dipped in syrup. I rolled in a milk crate on wheels, plat maps, tax records, copies of the county right-of-way, easement with the parts in yellow, a laser pointer, my own cheap projector. The dog watched through the glass from the porch, fogging it in a circle. People turned like birds, a wave. GoPro boy had upgraded. The little red dot blinked steady on his sternum. Member comments are 3 minutes, Marla said, smile set, like lacquer. Great, I said, plugging into their outlet. The projector threw up my first slide, Pine Hollow Community. The pine cone lifted right off their letterhead and set over a scan of the original plat, the line where Pine Hollow ends and my parcel begins, bolded until even the back row could see. I let the silence hold before I clicked. Drone footage next, their dot hovering over my cove at 1:14 a.m., then the body cam with her voice saying, documented like it was a prayer. Someone hissed, someone else clapped once and stopped. The deputy from Friday stood at the back with his hat in both hands again. Marla rapped the gavel just enough to be heard over the hum of the AC. Sir, she said, smile not moving, we can take this offline. No, I said, and the light from the projector put a pale square on her face. We're going to do this right here. I clicked forward. The next slide wasn't official plat lines or drone paths. It was her, Claire, standing at the edge of my property, arms crossed, office badge visible around her neck. Date stamped last month, right after the town rezoning vote. I did my homework, I said, voice steady but louder, eyes sweeping the room. Remember when Marla told us Pine Hollow had no easements on the North Ridge? That it was community land, safe from development? Turns out someone forgot to mention the land trust agreement buried deep in the county records, filed under a different name, of course. Claire here is not just a state inspector. She's the legal representative for Pine Hollow Timber, the corporation secretly buying up private parcels under the table to clear-cut next spring. Gasps floated like dry leaves across the room. GoPro boy shifted, lens zooming in on Marla, whose smile flickered, cracked. The pine cones on your signs? The spa gift cards? I let the sarcasm taste the air like bitter pine pitch. They're goodwill tokens, a facade to keep us quiet while land changes hands behind our backs. But this, I tapped the photo, she's proof their community is a front. We've been sold out. Marla's jaw tightened. That's libel. No, I said, voice sharp as a chainsaw's bite. It's public record. Here. I flipped open a folder. Signed contracts, dates, initialed clauses, each stamped with official county seals. I checked everyone twice. The room held its breath. Neighbors exchanged looks. Disbelief. Betrayal. Then something stronger. Resolve. Pine Hollow is ours, I said, locking eyes with as many as I could. But only if we fight together. We stop this now, not as divided victims, but as a united community. Marla's facade cracked. The gavel slipped from her fingers. It hit the floor with a hollow thud. In that moment, the power shifted, from a polished smile to a room full of awakened hearts. For a breathless second, no one moves. Then chairs rasp back, and the room exhales as one. Mrs. Lopez lifts her hand, voice steady. Motion to suspend the board's authority, pending an audit and legal review. A forest of hands climbs. GoPro boy counts aloud. The numbers roll, past any doubt. Marla's smile is gone. Colour drains from her face as she gropes for the fallen gavel like it might rewind the last 5 minutes. This is a misunderstanding, she offers, thin as paper. Someone asks where the spa cards came from. Another asks why Claire's badge puts her on state time at my fence line. Claire slips toward the aisle, chin tucked, badge turned backward. No one stops her, but phones rise, doors open, and the sound of her heels retreating echoes like woodpeckers in a hollow trunk. A hand finds my shoulder, Hank's, warm and weighty. The adrenaline that held me upright loosens. My knees remember gravity. The folder feels suddenly heavy, the edges biting my palm. Relief comes first, sharp and clean, chased by a deep, bone-tired ache. We got the room back. By unanimous vote, Marla is relieved as chair. An interim committee forms on the spot. Petitions start circulating. Someone's already calling a lawyer about an injunction. For the first time in months, the floor belongs to us. 6 months later, the folder lives in a drawer under seed packets and receipts. The audit did what the room began, clawed back the spa charges, flagged the no-bid contracts, pushed the county to file. Marla resigned before the indictment. Claire's badge vanished from the fence line and then from town. The trail reopened. Kids ride where the no trespassing signs used. To scold, the committee grew into a board that answers to us. Meetings stream online with captions. Childcare hums in the back. Agendas go out a week early in 2 languages. We argue plenty. Sometimes I lose a vote, but the lights stay on, the books stay open, and the gavel, when it falls, lands on rules. We wrote together. Hank laughs again. GoPro Boy runs the live stream and a summer film club. I planted tomatoes along the fence and stopped waking at 3 a.m. to replay old meetings in my head. Moral of the story: power doesn't hand itself back. Communities reclaim it by showing up, telling the truth, and keeping the receipts. What fence, in your world, needs taking down? And who are you bringing with you to help?